Good morning, students. Good morning to all. And last day we have studied about the fiscal economics and the fiscal federations. And at the end of the fiscal policies, we have completed our chapter 9. So today, just we will go to the chapter 10. So chapter 10. Today, just we will study about the chapter 10, the environmental economics. So, environmental economics, it is the study of interaction between human economic activity and the natural environment. So, we have studied already. So, if any of them want to produce any of the commodities, we have to use the four factors of productions. And when we are producing any of the commodities, and when we are establishing any of the industries, these industries, how has the interact with the environment? This is studied by the environmental economics. So environmental economics is the subset of economics that is concerned with the efficient allocation of environmental resources. So if any of the entrepreneurs want to produce any of the commodities, they must will be in need of raw materials and some of the natural resources. So all type of the raw materials and the natural resources also come from the natural way, that is the environmental. So the environment provides both the direct value as well as the raw material intended for the economic activity. So environmental economics takes into considerations issues such as the conversions and the valuation of natural resources, pollution control, waste management and recycling. So if you are taking any type of the industries, all of them are having some of the possibilities to producing the wastage, and how this wastage is going to recycling, and if it is affect the environment, how it is protected from there. It is studied by the environmental economics. Since the resources and whether human, natural or monetary or finite. So first we must know about the meaning of environment. The term environment has been derived from the French word environnement. The French word environnement. So the meaning for the environment to surround. So environment means all the conditions, circumstances and the influences surrounding and affecting the development of organism or group of organisms. You know the meaning of organism. So what are the living things are considered as a organism. So if the living things are being as a group, it is considered as a group of organisms. So it is a different branch of economics that recognize the value of both the environment and the economic activity, and it makes choices based on those values, because on the basis of the value of human behavior only the environment will be going to affect or will be protected. So if all the human behavior are having some of the self responsibility to protect the earth, so the environment will not have the possibilities to protect, possibilities to affect. So if these human values is failed to protect the earth, the environment will be affected by the both values. And in this environmental economics, another one of the concepts are there, it is the ecosystem. So the meaning for the economic systems or ecosystem is it includes all living things and interactions with each other. It also with their non-living environmental. So living things mean so plants, animals and the organisms and the group of organisms. And non-living environmental means weather, earth, sun, soil, climate and some of the atmosphere. So these interactions with the living things and the non-living things only is considered as the ecosystems. The ecosystems are the foundations of the biosphere and they determine the health of the entire earth system. How the human livings and the living beings are have the responsibilities to protecting the earth is considered as a ecosystem. Next, we have to know about some of the environmental goods. So the environmental goods are typically non-market goods. So it includes clear air, clear water, landscape, green transport infrastructures, everything as considered as a non-market goods. Because this type of the goods will never produced by the human. So it is the gift of the natures. So and it will never buy and sell in the market. So this type of the goods will never have the possibilities to market. So this type of the goods are considered or called as a non-market goods. So the concerns with environmental goods focus on the effects that the exploitation of ecological system have on the economy. So if the humans are using and next the environmental quality. So the environmental quality is a set of properties and the characteristics of the environment, either generalized or local, as the imping on human being and other organisms. So how one of the environment is going to protect on other organism or group of organism is considered as environmental quality. So environment is a pure public good that can be consumed simultaneously by everyone and from which no one can be excluded. A pure public good is one for which consumption is non-renewable and from which it is impossible to exclude a consumers. Next, the externalities and the environment. So in environmental economics, one of the most important market failure is caused by negative externalities arising from the production and the consumption of goods and services. When we are going to consume or producing any of the goods and commodities, some of the failure causes will be erased. This failure causes only is considered as a externalities and how these externalities will be going to affect the environment. So externalities are third party effects arising from the production and consumption of goods and services for which no appropriate compensation is paid. Already we have studied in the commerce. So when we are producing or when we are consuming any of the commodities, some of the third party will be affected. So when any of the third party is going to affect, so the reasonable or the respected persons are having some of the responsibility to bearing their effect. But when we are consuming any of the commodities or when we are producing any of the commodities, some of the failure will be erased and in the same time this failure also will not be have compensate. So if any of the possibilities are there without compensating the affection of the environment or any of the third parties is considered as a externalities. Here we have to note another one of the things. So when we are producing or consuming any of the commodities or goods and services, the both the human and the environment also will be affected. If any of the single man is erased, that is also one of the externalities. And if the group of societies and the earth and the water or the noise pollution is erased, it is called the group of organism is affected. So externalities refers to the external effects or spillover effect resulting from the act of production or consumption on the third parties. And the externalities also classified as a four types. So positive consumption externalities and the negative consumption externalities, like that the positive production externalities and the negative production externalities. When someone residents of a locality hire a private security agency to patrol their area, the other residents of the area also benefit from the better security with bearing cost. It is considered as a positive consumption externalities. When we have or when any of the individual patients' residence are located nearby the police stations or the headquarters of the IPS officers or the collector officers and in any of the industries, so there is no need to have the fearness from the theft, because the securities of the police stations, collector office and the fire stations or any of the industries only is enough. The individual persons will being as a safe. So it is called as a positive consumption externalities. As when as a single persons are consuming any of the services, another one of the residents also will have issued the benefit, that is called positive consumption externality. So negative consumption externality mean a person smoking cigarette gets may give satisfaction to that person, but this act causes hardship to the non-smokers who are driven to pursue the smoking. So normally we know the smoker always want to smoke as per the utilizations. When any of the single persons are going to smoke, these persons will get the satisfactions and the utilizations. But those who are standing nearby the smokers without having the interest to smoke, he will get some of the problems. This is called negative consumption externalities. One of the persons is going to consuming any of the commodities and services, it will be harmful to the other persons, is considered as a negative consumption externalities. Next, positive production externalities. When the time of productions, some of the positive externalities will be appear. The ideal locations for beehives, the orchards. While bees make honey, they also help in the pollination of apple blossoms. The benefit accrue to the both producers. So when we are producing any of the beehives, the honey, the persons, those who are altered the place for established the industries, these persons also will get the in benefit. Suppose training is given for the workers in a company. If those trained workers leave the company to join some other company, the later company gets the benefit of skilled workers without incurring the cost of training. It is called positive production externalities. Because already the workers got the training for producing any of the commodities. So the new companies will not have the responsibilities and will be in need of providing the separate training facilities for the persons. Next, we will come to know about the pollutions. How the productions and consumption will be made the pollutions of earth. So we know already the meaning of pollutions. The pollution is the introduction of contaminations into the natural environment. If any of the entrepreneurs or if any of the individual persons want to consume or produce any of the commodities, it will pollute many of the environment. It is called pollutions. First we will see about the air pollutions. So air pollution is the presence of any solid, liquid or gases substances in the atmosphere in such concentration as may be or tend to be an injurious. In any of the cases, if the air is going to pollute, it is called as air pollution simply. These air pollutions also classified as two types. First one is indoor air pollutions and the outdoor air pollutions. So, indoor air pollution refers to the toxic contaminant that we encounter in our daily lives in our home, schools, and workplace. For example, cooking and heating with the solid fuels and open fires or traditional stoves result in high levels of indoor air pollution. Normally, when we are consuming any of the commodities or when we are cooking in our home, so whatever will happen in our home, and if it is polluted the air, it is considered as a indoor air pollution. The outdoor air pollution refers to the ambient air. The common sources of outdoor air pollution are caused by combustion process from the motor vehicle, solid fuel burning, and industries. So out of the home, if you are come to the road and the industries, many of the air pollutant factors are there. So vehicles and the industries and some of the etc things are there. If these etc things are polluted, the air is considered as a outdoor air pollution. Next, the causes for air pollution is the very easiest. Already everybody knows the causes for air pollution. So even though just we have to study. So first one of the causes for the air pollution is vehicles exhaust smoke. So all type of the vehicles nowadays, many types of the vehicles and number of vehicles also is there, and in a single home, so all the members also having the motors and the bikes also. So this vehicle smoke happens to release high amounts of carbon monoxide. The millions of vehicles are operated every day in cities, each one leaving behind its own carbon footprint on the environment. So now, if any of them want to talk with the environment pollutions, this persons considered as unable to talk with the environment, because all the persons also will be one of the reasons to affecting the environment. So vehicle exhausting smoke also one of the most important factors. And next, fossil fuel based power plants. So fossil fuels also present a wider scale problem when they are burned for energy in power plants. Nowadays, all the government and the private organizations also established the energy power plants. So from this energy power plants, so many of the fossil fuel also will be exhausted. So chemicals like sulfur dioxide are released during the burning process, so which travel straight into the atmosphere. This type of pollutants react with water molecules to yield something known as the acid rain. Next, the exhausted from the industrial plants and factories. So heavy machineries located inside big factories and industrial plants also emit pollutions into the air. So industries also nowadays extended their level, and their production level also going to increase day by day. So whenever the production process is going to increase, so the smoke also will exhaust from there. So it also will be the reasons for the air pollutions. Next, construction and agricultural activities. The potential impacts arising from the construction debris would include dust particles and gases emissions from the construction sites. So nowadays, many of the stones and the blocks and the soils and some of the sand also coming from the construction field. So this is also will be affect the air. So many of the dust also will be mingled with the air. So now when we want to exhale or inhale, so it will be affect our human health. Next, the natural causes. So earth is also one of the biggest polluters itself. through volcanoes, forest fires, and dust storms. So, this is also one of the causes. So, in our world, we will never see the another one of the persons. Next, household activities. So, household activities like cooking, heating, and lighting, the use of the various forms of mosquitoes, repellents, pesticides, and the chemicals for cleaning at home, and use of artificial fragrances also some of the causes for the air polluted. So, and not only these 6 points, some many of the causes are there to pollute the air. Okay, we have studied the causes for air pollutions. If the air is polluted already, what are the effects will come? Effects of air pollution. The respiratory and the heart problems. So the air pollutants will create the several respiratory and heart ailments along with the cancers. Because when we are inhaling the pollutant air, it will be harmful affect the heart only. So it will be leads to bringing the cancers. The children are highly vulnerable and exposed to air pollutants and commonly suffer from pneumonia and the asthma. Next, the global warming. We have studied many times about the global warming. So, the increasing temperature in the atmosphere leads to global warming and thereby to increase the sea level rise and melting of polar iceberg, displacement and the loss of habitat. So, whenever the air is going to pollute, the global warming will be arised. Whenever the global warming is going to increase, so it will be increasing the rise level. Next, the acid rain. So the harmful gases like nitrogen oxides and the sulfur oxides are released into the atmosphere during the burning of fossil fuels. So if the good air is polluted with the nitrous oxide and the sulfur oxide, it will be leads to acid rain. And if this acid rain also causes the great damage of human beings, animals and crops, normally the skin will be harmfully affected with the acid rain. Next, eutrophications. So eutrophication is a condition where high amount of nitrogen present in some pollutants which adversely affect the fish, plants and animal species. So eutrophication means some of the water also will be polluted if any of the aquatic plants and aquatic animals also will be affected if the air is polluted. Some of the aquatic animals only have the possibilities to living in the good water, but in the same time if the good water is polluted with any of the air, so this is also will be affected. Next, effects of wildlife. The toxic chemical present in the air can force wildlife species to move to new place and change their habitat. So normally if there is no good air, some of the animals also will be migrated from one nation to another nation or one wild to another one of the forest. So our forest resources also will be damaged by this way. Next, human wealth and the human health. So, outdoor air pollution is a major cause of death and the disease globally. The health effects range from increased hospital admissions and emergency room visits to increase the risk of premature death. It is the air pollution only is very cause. Okay, students, I think it's enough. So the effects of air pollution also has the 8 points, and if you have any doubts from these air pollutions and the causes of air pollutions, please ask me and just to take this same concept as your study portions. Thank you.